Everybody got their vaccine yet?
Yep.
I stood at the Times Union last Thursday night from 20 of 7 to 8:15 to get my first shot.
Oh, no.
It was a long wait at the Times Union.
SUNY is very, very slick. They just, boom, boom, you're in, you're out. 17 minutes later.
I couldn't believe the wait we had.
Probably the National Guard versus the volunteers.
They said there was some kind of glitch when I finally got up there to quote sit down for my vaccine. I don't know what the glitch was, but boy, it really
Huh.
balled up things.
Well, I was there volunteering Saturday and then last Monday evening. And Saturday, I think people didn't wait at all. And Monday evening, people were like outside and around the building.
Yeah.
What I heard.
Oh,
I don't know like why things go more smoothly on some days than others, but yeah.
I guess
My
I was
appointment
lucky to
was-
get SUNY then.
My appointment was 10 of 7, 6:50, and 8:15. I got my shot in my arm.
Wow.
I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I'm glad for you. I got it. Yeah, I just.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's almost 7 o'clock and I think we can begin the meeting. Okay,
Just turned
so
7.
we shall call the meeting to order. Welcome any visitors online. And look for an approval of the February minutes.
I didn't see any errors unless someone else caught any. So
Under just one minor thing, under stolen table, I think you put, third line down, the woman called the library to deny she was there. It's the and then THER. So it's just a little minor. I think you meant there, just right.
Yeah,
That's all. Other than that,
so it should be THERE.
THERE, right. I mean, you had THE and then you had THEIR, and I
Yeah.
think you did it quickly. That wasn't.
therefore I make a
And does
motion.
anyone else have, Meredith, did you have any?
I didn't see anything, no.
Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion to accept the
I make a
February
motion to
meetings.
accept the minutes as corrected.
A second?
I'll second it.
Great, Meredith. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion, minutes pass, motion passes. Okay, we'll go on with the director's reports.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. Let me flick over to where I want to be. Not there. There we go. Okay, so you should see a slide. Can everyone see a slide?
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, I added a new one. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. So, so since we met last, we've had a number of pretty successful virtual programs. Amy, who I think most of you have met, if not everyone, one of her many past lives was working at Fadigan's. So she did a seed starting workshop, which filled up. You were there, right, Pat?
Yes,
How are your seeds doing? Did you plant them?
they're right here. I'm looking at them. They haven't started yet, but they're coming.
Okay, excellent. I think it went well. She has a really nice way with people. So
Yes.
she really knows the content, but she's also just super personable. So I was happy with that. We had 10 spots and 10 people sign up, so that worked out really well. We're still doing the make and takes. One of my favorites from the past month was a marble maze. This was a zero cost. Everyone kind of rummaged to the recycling bin and brought stuff in. And then kids laid it out so that they could turn the box that it was in and run the marble through it. We're still doing our live story times. We're gonna switch. We've been doing them every other week. Starting in April, we're gonna do them every week. It's a lot of fun to watch. Kids are Zoom naturals. I don't know what else to say. This is another make and take. Carol did this one. These are, it's a little sewing project for adults. They're stuffed chicks. I thought they were adorable. We had our American Sign Language class. I think tomorrow is the 4th week. It was very popular. We had a long wait list on that. I think it's going well. The instructor teaches it only in sign.
Yeah.
There is no speaking in the class, which I
That's a
think,
challenge.
yeah, it's on the one hand, I think it's very evidence based, right? People say immersion is the best way to acquire new
Yes,
language
It
skills,
is.
but it's not easy.
No.
So I think most people are like hanging in. I think I've had 2 people who dropped out, kind of not realizing what they were in for.
Mhm.
Is this
But
one-
Another language.
yeah, it
It
really
is,
is.
it's a whole, yeah,
Learning another, it's another language.
it is. Because you have to use your face gestures, you have to use, yeah.
Absolutely, your whole body.
So it's been nice seeing the level of interest in that. So that's going pretty well. And the instructor is great to work with. She's super organized. The first class she had an interpreter, explain things and obviously spoken English. But ever since then, it's been entirely in ASL, and then they use the chat function if something's a little more complicated. That's going well. Trisha, you are just the star today. Library bingo, which if you get bingo, which you read 3 books and then do 2 reading activities is how you earn bingo. You get a pair of library socks, and then subsequent bingos put you in a raffle for a gift card to I Love Books. So that's been fun. Our turnout is way lower than last year, but I think that's a function of much fewer people being in the building, which is okay. It's especially okay because I ordered more prizes, but then they weren't able to fulfill my order, so they didn't come. So I was like, oh no, I don't have enough, but not that many people participated, so it worked out perfectly.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's good. That's the goal. So these are some photos from the restoration of our mystery large print sci-fi and end of the alphabet section. Brendan reshelved all the books. He had some help from some other members, but he's always kind of looking for more hours. So I said, okay, Brendan, go in Saturday evening, Sunday, whenever you have time. I think it took him like 10 hours of shelving, which was incredible. So I asked him to take some photos. The company that took the books off the shelves, I was so glad I did not have them put them back on, because they did not manage to take them off in order, which I don't know, it was the owner or someone from the management of the company called me a few days ago, said, how's it going? I'm like, well, it's taking us a little longer to put the books back on the shelves than I expected. They're not really in order in the boxes. And he's like, yeah, I don't hire people who are literate. Like, he's joking, but only kind of, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's been interesting trying to figure out, like, what were they thinking when they put these books in these boxes. So it's taken us a while to get them back up. The good news is everything is back in right now, which is great. You can see they replaced all the carpeting that got flooded. Unfortunately, when the carpet that we put in, 4 years ago came in, we had almost 1,000 square feet of extra tiles. And I'm actually super happy that we used it all up, because it had been taking up a lot of storage space.
oh,
Like, God, when am I gonna ever use this many tiles? But now I no longer have them. I only have like 10 carpet tiles left. So no one can like still glitter and paint in the library anymore, because I don't have the endless supply that I used to. So just a couple more photos of that. So it was a big project. It was mainly Brendan, but everyone chipped in a bit, especially kind of just trying to triage it a little bit, putting things in a semblance of order. So when Brendan put them on the shelf, he wouldn't have to be like digging through multiple boxes looking for things. We're just really glad that it's done. They're supposed to come in and just carpet clean the entire library on Wednesday, which is something I'd kind of thought about doing in the past, but hadn't. So when they said they would do it, I said, sure. I think the goal is for the new carpet and the old carpet to look more similar, just so the old carpet is cleaner. Obviously, once it gets carpet shampooed. So we'll see how that comes out, but kind of fingers crossed that it's a good thing. I figured, it's better to have it done when someone's going to do it for you than to hire someone ourselves
oh,
at
for certain, yeah.
Yeah.
some other point. So that's the news on that. We've also we've been having issues with the heating unit in the new space. And I don't have any photos, mainly because it was always so freezing when the guys were out there. I never wanted to go back out and take a photo. But it turns out there was a problem with the heat pump, which is outside the building. The good news is that the heat pump was under warranty.
great.
It was less than 5 years old. So it got replaced. They came in on Friday and today and did that. There's definitely going to be some labor costs involved in that. But fortunately, the unit itself was under warranty. So I don't know yet what it's going to cost, but it's not as bad as it could have been. And we have heat again, so that's good. Although, you know, just in time for 64 degrees on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain though. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. On new business, number 6, the reopening timeline, just because I wanted to have some images. Marie, do you mind if we jump to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So I've got some images that are related to new business number 6. Maria,
Oh, no, sure, let's do that. The reopening, yes.
so back in December, on December 15th, switched to this appointment only model because the daily new cases of COVID went over 25 per 100,000, which in a number of matrices was kind of like the critical threshold. A few weeks ago, we passed back down that number on the way down. So that's actually here. I can't see it because you guys' pictures in the way, so I'm gonna move y'all's. There we go. So you can see, you know, here is December 15th, you know, back when we crossed this line is when we started thinking about switching to appointment only. I'm sure everyone recognizes this curve. Things have been coming way down almost as quickly as they went up. It's been great. There has been a bit of a plateau here. And similarly, this is the R0, you know, when it's at 1, cases stay at the same number. When it's below 1, cases fall. When it's above, substantially above 1, cases rise rapidly. You can see that the spread has been going down, but then it started going up again. And so at this point, you know, to simplify a lot, basically it's the vaccines versus the variants, right? Like, are we going to have enough people vaccinated quickly enough that these variants that are increasing in prevalence don't cause another spike?
Like, right.
So because we are, you know, we went crossed down this line, most of me is inclined to recommend that we go back to our pre-December model in which we were walk-in. The only part of me that hesitates is, you know, had this line continued, it would be a no-brainer, continue downwards. But seeing a couple of things kind of plateau or here head a little bit in the wrong direction, it may be worth considering just waiting a couple more weeks and making sure the downward trajectory continues. I would hate to open, then 2 weeks later be like, oh, it's going completely in the wrong direction again.
Better
So
to be safe, yeah.
that's kind of in my mind, that's the calculus.
I think that sounds more than reasonable.
Yes,
I agree.
I agree. 100%.
I do
Right.
too.
So we could say maybe April 1st, we would reopen if things are continue to be good.
Yeah.
That seem, you know, it's hard to know when exactly you're kind of like past that point. And you can say, like, you know, for a week or two is really not looking good, but now the last couple of days it's been going down again. But I'd like to see a couple of weeks of going down. And
Yeah.
then
Before we, yes, open those doors, yeah.
Yeah, I think April 1st is reasonable, and you can, you know, we can look in the week before that and see which way it's trending, right?
yeah. And then maybe like a week before we would let people know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, there's the good news is people are used to the appointments, and we very seldom, even when someone shows up without an appointment, occasionally they have to wait 15 minutes or, you know, they decide they don't want to wait and they come back tomorrow. But the majority of the time when people show up, there is room for them to come in. which is good. It is in some ways more work, just because you kind of are interacting with everyone. They call and make the appointment, and then they come and so basically it doubles all the interactions with everyone. So the phone rings a lot more. But it's manageable. So I think from a staff point of view, on the one hand, things are simpler when people just come in and get what they need. But it's
But to
nice
make the appointments.
right. It's nice to have the confidence that the numbers are going to be in the right direction too. So. Okay. Any questions on any of that?
Nope.
Great.
Do you want to go on to the financial reports?
Yeah, well, let me talk about the
Or
numbers.
do you still have, oh, okay, I didn't know whether you still had,
Nope. But wait, there's more.
okay.
Here we are. Okay, so nothing terribly exciting in this here. You can see that all of our physical items were down compared to last February, except for YA fiction. I have no idea what that is. But we must have someone who's coming in and reading a lot of YA fiction and YA nonfiction. That's not surprising. I guess the bright side is, starting next month, we're not going to have all these negatives because it's going to be a year since the building didn't have the regular access. Our ebooks overdrive was up 28%. Which I should have put in there. Overdrive is up 28%, and Hoopla we didn't even have last year. So the e-content does enough that it really kind of mitigates the plummeting print collection. So we're at about 82% of last year's circulation. So aside from that pleasing spike in YA, the teens apparently are reading, or I can't really tell
That's
you
good.
anything beyond that, but it is good. Everything else is kind of gloomy and dreary, but to be expected. Okay, so any questions on any of that?
Nope.
Okay, so on to the financials. I'm going to start with budget versus actual. Probably the one thing I'm going to point out, and this has been the case for a little while, but I didn't really think about it until I was working on the budget. Let me stop my share here. Was the library clerk staffing line. One thing that's an element of uncertainty looking at staff budgeting is pay period hit in a way that really affects it. Sometimes you have 2 pay periods in a month. Sometimes you have 3, depending on when payday hits. If it hits on the 2nd, the 16th, and the 31st, or whatever, that doesn't really work mathematically, but you know what I mean. Then your payroll is going to look really off one month. And I kind of thought that was happening when I saw these weird or not slightly high clerk lines. But then when I looked in more detail, I realized that that's actually not happening, and the clerk line is under budgeted. So that's just something I hadn't really noticed until I looked more carefully at it when I was working on the coming year's budget. Aside from that, tax levy is good. There's not an awful lot that's unusual here. I don't know, did anything jump out at anybody in terms of the years to date budget versus actual?
No.
Okay, that's good. And then probably one of the things that makes a lot of sense to look at now is I included the just the printout of our statement balances at National Bank of Coxsackie. You can tell that our general savings, which is basically, of course, the operating funds that we pay our bills from, is in more than good shape to get us through the end of the year. We have $74,000 in our capital fund, which is ample And then this reserve fund savings, that's where folks may remember that the auditor last month was talking about how we've been ending each year kind of with a growing fund balance. So when that happens, I transfer that balance into this reserve saving fund. So we have $103,000 in that fund. And Marie, do you think it makes sense now to kind of segue into the budget for next year?
I think so. I think that's great.
So two things on that. I included our tax levy limit calculation sheet in the packet. Last year, our levy was 596,158, which is the same as the previous year, as we decided not to do an increase last year. Our allowable levy limit, so what would keep us within the tax cap, is 622,000. So that's an increase of $24,000. Last month, there was an inclination to not increase the tax levy again this year. So when I worked on the budget, I did not try to balance it. I just kind of put in what the expenses I'd like to see, and then we should have a conversation this evening of, do we want to cut back on some of those expenses? Do we want to transfer all the necessary funds from the fund balance, or do we want to increase our levy a little bit? So those are really the options, right? We could cut our expenses. We could do a transfer, basically balance the budget from the fund balance, or we could raise our levy, or we could do a combination of those three things. In terms of the budget itself, just one note, the printout in the packet has slightly fewer years than what I emailed you guys on Friday. And the only reason for that is so the font would be readable. The font, if you print out the entire thing, it gets really small on the page. So I just did a couple years instead of having all 7 years, just in case anyone was wondering about that. So I left the levy as is in the draft. And in terms of the income, I increased the income. I decreased the desk receipts. That's our fine income, and our copier receipts and our book sale. All of the kind of the small bore desk receipts. We haven't made a decision yet as a board as to whether or not you want to have our fine-free status extended, beyond COVID. But I didn't want to count on having that revenue. So we're not assuming that we're going to have it in the budget. So the board can decide either way. And if we do decide to collect fines again, that number will just be higher. I figure we'd be better off having it be higher than expected than being lower than expected. I'm very conservative in terms of grants, gifts. We might do some fundraising this year. Things are starting to look up. We might have a barbecue this summer. It's possible. It's very encouraging. The local library service, I budgeted that based on a 20% decrease. Who knows what the New York State budget is going to look like. There's just so much going on. There's always a whole bunch of unseeable, unknowable negotiations. And this year, of course, that's all complicated by everything else that's happening with Cuomo. So it's even more opaque than normal. And then in terms of the pilot, that's the amount we received this past year. We received actually a little bit more than was budgeted. So I just put that number in again. The bond payment number is the actual number for the utilities. I just carried over our expenses.
Oh no, sorry. Can you hear my family? Let me. Their screams of joy, I promise.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I honestly thought it was cats.
That's what I,
Cats. That's great. Okay, where were we? So those facilities costs I left the same. Under salaries, I did a 2% increase for everyone except the clerks. I've been, since I've been here, I've been really trying to raise the bottom of the pay scale for a couple of reasons. We've got some great clerks, like we have a full-time clerk with her master's degree. And I think when I started, we were paying them like $9.50 an hour. We're up to $16 an hour, which on the one hand, part of that has been New York State increasing this minimum wage. And you don't want people to be able to go to Stewart's and make more money easily. But part of it is really that because of the nature of our organization, and it's fairly flat. Our library clerks do programs. They're the first line for a lot of the questions that come in. You go to Bethlehem and there is a circulation desk and a reference desk. We have one desk, and our clerks are really doing a lot of what the librarians do at Bethlehem. So I want to kind of slowly, keep up with that. And we have really good people in that position, and I would really like to keep them. So they, I have every year, I think, kind of done 2% for everyone else, but tried to increase their pay line more. And one of the reasons for that, of course, is 2% of $14 an hour is not nearly as much as 2% of $60,000 a year, which always just struck me as unfair. But so in terms of the actual amount of their raise, it's probably still less than the full-time salaried folks. But I did feel that only giving them 2% wasn't in the long-term best interest of the organization. So it's more like 8% for them. But again, that's going from like $15.50 to $16. So that's one of the things there. But as I mentioned, when I looked at the year to date, there is a big jump in the clerk. A small portion of that is the increase, but part of it is, every year I've just kind of done a straight percentage increase, but this year, because everything has been so crazy and everyone's hours have been so weird, I went and recreated the schedule from scratch. And I think that there's been some creep in the hours, which I hadn't really realized. So I wanted to account for that so that next year we're not 108% of the budget line. So that's why there's I'm going to guess a third of that increase is a raise and a third of that increase is a reflection of what's actually been the reality for the last year or two in terms of the hours we've been scheduling. So when I did that, I was like, is this right? I was kind of looking at my math error, but then I realized that no, this is actually what you've been doing. You just didn't realize it.
We have always been supportive of raises.
Yes.
2% raise for years ago. And we really, really endorse that. And we want to sustain that for the librarians. And I certainly agree with what you're doing for the library folks.
Yes.
Does anyone else?
Yes.
Yes.
I agree. Yes.
When we've got the good help, we need to keep it, or we've got good workers.
Yeah. Okay. And then under the 400 line, that all just reflects, those numbers are all a reflection of your salaries, because it's obviously just a percentage. The medical employer expense, it just always kills me how expensive healthcare is. Right now, we're doing healthcare for 2 employees. So we're actually a little under budget on that this year, but it's just insanely expensive. I do have a meeting scheduled with a different broker this Thursday to see if we can get better pricing on that, because I haven't gone out for quotes in a number of years on that. So I'm cautioning them. Any worse? I don't really know yet. So for books, I increased things a little bit. Basically what I did was I went back to the budget numbers that I started off with last year before the pandemic started. So you can see that last year, most of the things we cut a little bit last year just to make it possible to not increase the levy. So most of those things I went back to what we'd originally hoped to do. The one difference is adult audiobooks. People are switching to streaming really quickly in that category. So we're moving more of that to the e-content budget. So DVDs is the same. I increased e-content another $2,000. This month there was a 28% increase over last year. That's just growing. And then the retailer's catalog, that's a billed amount. That's something that comes from Upper Hudson. Programming, I again went after $10,000. I'm kind of working on the assumption that sometime this summer or no later than that fall, we're going to be back to normal programming. I hope that was the assumption I worked with here. So it'd be great to have people in the building, have presenters come in. It was just, a year ago before all this hit. So when we had this conversation last year for round one of the budget, I think I remember saying how programming had really felt like it was really taking off. We were having really good attendance for these variety of programs, more so than we ever had before. And that's why at that point I did that big jump in the programming budget. And then of course, wham, it all ended real quickly. So this is, there is some room for cuts there because it is double what it used to be. That is a little bit aspirational, but I figured I'd put in what I'd like to see and we can take it from there. Nothing different on the supplies. Nothing different than on the staff development. The auditor is a little higher because they do our annual controller's AUD report for us. So that's really just kind of a reflection of the actual expense. Always budget for legal consult and hope you don't need it. Been lucky in that regard, but I feel like if you don't budget for it, you're asking for trouble.
That's when we'll need it. Yeah.
And the reality is 2,500 isn't going to really pay you much lawyer's fees anyhow, so you better hope you only need it every 5 years. So and then the technology expenses are the same. So you can see our total expenses are 644,000, whereas our total revenue is substantially less, right? It's $611,000. So that's where the conversation comes in about what do we do about that gap?
And let's see, you said there was 103 in the reserve funds.
Mhm.
And what is New York State like to see in the reserve funds?
Well, there's no hard, fast guidance on that. They want to see, oh gosh, you know what? I feel like the CPA, when he was here 6 or 7 years ago, might have thrown out a number. But I think that last month they kind of suggested that we might be a little high. A couple months operating expenses is probably what you want to see.
Say that again, how many?
I mean, I think a couple months operating expenses.
So if we took, say, around 33,000 out of the reserve to just make up the difference, that wouldn't be terrible then.
We could do that. The one thing I would kind of thinking a little longer term, and I'm no finance person, but I wonder if there is a risk in having so basically say next year we want to even just keep the budget the same. We don't want to every year take $30,000 out of reserve, right? You want to kind of slowly grow your levy along with your budget, because at some point we can't forever take this much out of the reserve. It's not sustainable.
Right.
We can certainly do it once, maybe twice, but you don't want to grow your budget and not grow your levy.
And, and is there an optimal reserve fund? I know that's what I was trying to think of what he said that we should absolutely have and maintain, from year to year.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that there is no one's going to tell you
Yeah, right.
this number. I think a couple months is what they said.
Okay.
I don't have the financial statements in front of me, so could you remind me what 1 month's expenses are approximately?
Sure, like 35,000.
Mhm.
Or it does vary, but
So if we took half of it out of the levy and we, maybe we would get away with a 1% increase? 15, No, that wouldn't,
One-
that doesn't work out.
One perhaps, do you mean for staff, Lori?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. I
okay,
think we should
okay.
change that. No, I just meant, you know, if we have this gap of $33,000.
Right.
We took half of it out of the levy and
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where the other half would come from.
So, sorry for going back just for a second, but I wasn't here because I wasn't here last month. What was the discussion about not keeping the levy the same as last year? Like,
We
what were
were
the
leaning-
pros to that?
As I recall, we were leaning towards keeping it the same
Because, for what reason?
because the community in general, if I recall correctly,
Right.
has been, you know, dealt a tough economic
Yes.
plate, and we
Right.
didn't want to, you know, add to it.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Judith, you said there was 3 things we could do: cut expenses, transfer, or raise a levy.
Mhm.
What are you suggesting where the cuts for would be?
Well, we could decrease that programming line, for example, back to $5,000 or $6,000. That'd be a $4,000 savings.
Programming, like the programs that the library runs, elderly youth for the
Programs that
community.
we run. Yep.
Boy, I would really hate to see that.
I'd hate to see that cut.
Yeah. And then another thing is, so we budget 20,000 for capital improvements. Part of that is we apply for a construction grant. We need to have a 25% match. So I like to build that into the budget. Capital projects or construction grant projects are on the agenda tonight. I actually don't, I'm not coming to this meeting with, oh, I think we need to do this project. I mean, we're lucky in that we've done a bunch of construction grants and all the low hanging fruit has kind of been picked. So we could not do a construction grant and then budget less for capital expenses. So, there's definitely some wiggle room there. Obviously, you want to include some money because stuff will break, etc.
All right, you've got to keep.
$20,000 is kind of assumes that you're going to do something beyond, maintenance and replacement.
Judith?
I would hate to see the programming cut,
I wouldn't like to see that cut at all.
especially, yeah.
Hey, Judith,
Yes.
do you have any, I mean, I'm not asking you to be a fortune teller, but do you have any sense about the e-content? Like, do you think once people come back into the library, will that go down? Or do you think once people get used to using the e-content, they'll just continue to use it?
I think it's more the latter. Part of it is last year we added Hoopla, which is, the service. It's a smaller selection, but everything's available all the time.
Yeah.
It has a lot less use in overdrive, but once you give people something, they don't like it when you take it away.
Right.
So yeah, I think that expense will probably stay there. And there have been a lot more people this, since we've been reopened, who come in and like, how do I use this levy? And I want to how does this work? So people who weren't formally using it and are new users.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Could adult books go down and maintain at 11,000 rather than 12?
Yeah, we could do that. It's.
I don't know. I'm trying to look
Yeah.
for just pulling 1,000 here, 1,000 there, or
Rather
500
than
here.
cutting
Rather
something.
than cutting a whole bunch, right?
Right, just go
But-
through, right,
Cutting a little bit here and there versus cutting out.
right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that we would cut out. That's, yeah.
I mean, cut way down. I didn't mean cut out. Cut way down in. I meant.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even the DVDs, it's 3,000. Do you need that much? Yes?
So it's hard. On the one hand, that is definitely a falling circulation number. On the other hand, the people who borrow DVDs, there's a small but devoted, basically it's people who don't have streaming
Right.
and like movies, and there's,
Okay,
they would be very disappointed.
okay, all right.
But, it's doesn't mean we couldn't do it.
Ooh,
And also, I think a couple years ago, one of our surveys was, I don't remember exactly how we asked it, but one of the takeaways was somehow it was like, what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? More DVDs was like probably the loudest thing that came through on that survey.
which again makes sense for those who don't have the, whatever, the setups to do the,
Yeah. And also there's a portion of the population that, doesn't have reliable
Right.
broadband. There's certainly
Right.
places in Elk Cove and Queens where you have maybe satellite internet and you're not streaming on that.
right. And spending more time, I guess, in home, inside,
Yeah.
not going to the movies.
Uh,
Is it an option to, so our number is about 33,000 that we would have to find if we didn't cut anything, right? Is it an option to take half of that from the reserves and raise the tax levy just a bit? Like
Yeah,
I understand why we don't want to raise it, but I mean, granted, this is, I'm a little bit biased, obviously, because I love the library and I feel like it's important, but I feel like a lot of people feel like that this, the library has stayed open. The library has given to people when they haven't, had a lot going on the last year. I think we could say, hey, we just want to raise it a little bit so that we can keep doing these things and make it better, because happier days are coming.
Yeah,
Certainly
I
hope so.
So I don't know, is it an option then to raise it just a bit, or is it better to just say, we're not going to raise it at all?
So two things, and it's certainly an option. I did reach out to the school district to see what they were doing.
Yeah,
And Joanne Moran told me that they were hoping to not raise their levy.
okay,
It's, and if they don't do it, it makes it a little harder for us to do
Right.
it.
for sure, yeah.
oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
that's not for sure yet. I'm sure they're waiting to see tough because they're I'm sure waiting to hear from New York about what that number is going to be, New York
Yeah.
State, which I'm sure is going to impact what their options are.
Yeah.
Now, usually in our newsletter, you indicate what the amount was in the previous year. And so as a reader, somebody who's going to be looking at this saying, oh my goodness, look at the increase. When you look at numbers, 611 versus 644, am I right? I think, yeah. How is that going to affect how people vote on our budget? I mean, I just want to pose that as a question. Because we always put down the previous year, right? Am I right, Judith? In your
We always
newsletter?
do. Yep, absolutely. And just one thing that complicates that a little bit is, of course, the people don't vote on the budget number; they vote on the levy number.
Right.
And so we could, so that's kind of what are the other income possibilities is the question.
Mm.
Yeah, no, they certainly do. And I guess I know I already said this, but just to reiterate, because 12 months from now, we'll be having this conversation again. And forgive me for repeating myself, but I think it's important. If we leave the levy at 596 again this year, it's, the more years go by that you don't increase your levy, at a certain point, you might have to do a bigger increase all at once.
Right. That's
And there's two things there. One is that's never easy to swallow. And the other thing is there is a tax cap. And we could certainly vote to override the tax cap. That's doable. But I think that is worse from both the impact on people's pocketbooks and from a PR point of view.
Yeah, I feel like our hands are a little bit tied
I know.
until we
that's
hear what the school district is doing. But I guess my opinion is if we can cut down a little bit, like if we can figure out how to trim the budget by, I don't know, 10 or 15%, then I feel okay about taking the rest out of reserves. I don't feel like if we make that decision for this year, it means we're going to have to do it every year. This is a crazy year, right?
But even if we have a flat budget next year, where does that come from?
You mean if we don't raise it at all?
If we don't raise the levy this year, and if next year we don't increase our expenses at all, we'll still have to come up with $644,000 next year.
Right, but wouldn't we be more justified next year in raising the tax levy? So we wouldn't have to take that out of reserves.
Probably, but
Or do you feel like, would that be too big a jump for people to
Yeah,
digest that?
That's exactly what my concern is.
Okay.
I mean, do you think it would be reasonable to do, half and half? Half come with an increase in levy and half come from the reserves?
I think you'd almost have to do a third, maybe even a third, cut some,
That's
fund transfer, and then, raise the levy 1%. I think 1% increase is only like $5,000, $6,000.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense.
then you're
The
not,
third to the third.
I have to, yeah,
Is that
That
going to be hard to find 10,000 to cut?
I know, that's.
Well, the only thing we need to agree on tonight is the levy number. So I could certainly, we could, approve that tonight. And then I could easily go back through this and see what could I cut. And then next month we could say, okay, we're gonna
Do this.
take these cuts and transfer this much from the fund balance, or these cuts are too much, we'll do a bigger fund balance transfer. Because we can afford to cover it all from the fund balance. I really just don't want us to be 2 years there. 2 years with no levy increase. I just don't want to, I really don't want to do a big jump.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the third, or whatever.
Because I haven't run the numbers on what the impact's going to be on, say, I always look at like what's the tax impact on say an assessment of $150,000, and it's going to be like $1.50 a year, something like that. It's not going to be a lot of money.
So then if we did the third, where does that leave us if the school district says they're not increasing the levy?
Well, that leaves us increasing the levy and the school district's not. But there's a couple of things that work out for us. One is the school district is so freaking complicated. And in terms of I think people vote on the budget for the school district, but they vote on our levy. And I don't understand why that is, like why they don't vote on our budget, they vote only on our levy.
Yeah.
Some complicated New York state law thing. And I don't think people do the comparison. It's because it's not an apples to apples comparison. And when people vote on the ballot, and I hate that, I don't want to sound at all like I'm trying to not be transparent, but there's just a number. Like, do you approve this number? It's not, do you approve this increase? It's just, do you approve
This number.
So someone could say to us, well, how come you guys are increasing by 1% and the school district isn't increasing? Well, the school district is probably getting CARES funding, right, from the federal government. We're not. So there's things like that are happening. And I certainly not, I haven't seen the school district's budget proposal yet. I don't know where the funding is coming from. So I would be very comfortable saying to someone, the school district isn't and we are, because we have these organizational differences. And once we see the budget, then I can give more substance to that answer. I think it would be, when I heard that Joanne said they thought they weren't raising the levy, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised if that happened. I don't think they are going to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to look bad compared to them in that regard.
Right. And when it comes down to it, our budget is $600,000. Their budget is $47 million. So
Little difference.
Increase in
Little
their budget
difference,
is
yeah.
a lot more than a 1% increase in our budget.
Yeah.
Right.
So Meredith, your idea is maybe a half of that out of the reserve fund, like 15,000, you thought?
My idea was a half, yep. And then also, you know, take the other half, get the other half from the levy.
Right.
If you all feel comfortable with the third instead and cutting out the budget, cutting down the budget a little bit, that's okay too. But it seems like splitting it is maybe the best way to go for us for the future and logistics wise, you know, so we don't get in trouble. We don't put ourselves in trouble next year or 2 years of, you know, 2 years down the road.
How
So
does
do
that
half cut and half out of the
reserve?
reserve.
I'm saying half, no, half,
A third.
raise the tax levy half and then half add, but a third is, you know, that's fine too. But I think the more, if we can split it, that's the way to go. And if Judith feels like we can get away with raising our levy a little bit, even if the school district doesn't,
That's the way.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I think. Yeah.
I think that sounds like a, you know, certainly a very reasonable
Yes.
direction.
Yes.
so what Judith wants us to decide tonight is exactly how we want to do this, right?
Well, what we have to decide before the next board meeting, because I have to get school district, is what is our levy number?
Okay, all right. So how much should we raise the levy? Right? What did you say it is currently?
It's so this year and last year was 596,158. And the initial draft budget for last year, you know, pre-COVID, it was 608,
Mhm.
which was probably about a 2% increase.
Okay.
And if we get a 1% increase this year, let me just make sure I'm doing this right. 1.01, that is 602,119 would be a 1% increase. So we could just do 602, it would be a less than 1% increase.
So that's about what, $6,000?
Yeah, a little less than $6,000.
Okay.
But so that leaves a lot more than $33,000 then, the
It
discretion.
does. Yep.
Where did the 611 come from?
611?
I wrote down the expenses were 644,000.
611 is revenue, current revenue. So that's basically levy plus, you know, the desk receipts. And
Oh, okay. Well, I'm comfortable with 602,000, a 1% increase.
Again, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's reasonable.
especially with the context of no increase last year.
I'm gonna step out for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Go get the cookies.
I missed those.
I know.
Oh, I think, yeah. So that would be one half. Okay, so that would be half of what we need, right? So that would
No,
be the
it's not a
No.
half.
A
It's a
third,
quarter.
is it still a third?
It's
quarter.
not even a third.
Oh, no, it's no, oh, when we're thinking of 30, yeah, excuse me, yeah, when we're thinking of the 33,000 that we have to do, right? So it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, so it's about
Right.
27 we would still have to make up, either from between cuts and taking it out of the reserve.
okay.
But the good news is I could certainly come up with a couple of different scenarios for next month. And we don't need to have that resolved today.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or suggestions to make? Okay. No, Lori's gone for just a couple minutes. Shall we wait for her so she can?
Oh, yeah.
I think you need to.
Yes, because she's taking the minutes.
Well, and because you have a quorum without her.
That's true.
I mean, I guess I don't know if we need 5 or 4, but I guess maybe 4. 5 would be better. There she is.
Thank you.
Mhm.
What,
Thank you for being here, Lori.
what's that?
Thank you for being here when your family is leaving.
Oh, well, they've been here for a week, so it
Oh, that's
was great to have them though, gosh. So what did I miss?
Nothing.
Nothing, we were waiting for you.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you. I'm thinking that we need a motion if people are comfortable with the 102,000, 602,000. No?
Yes.
And that's, did you say that's 1%, Judith?
That's 1%, yeah.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
actual number was, hold on, let me make sure I got. So 1% exactly is, I wrote it down, I put my page. 602,119.
I do that.
So what is, sorry, what does the wording need to be? Is it I make a motion that we increase the tax levy by 1%?
I want
That we adopt the tax levy of 602,119.
I make a motion that we adopt a tax levy of 602,119.
I
I thought
second.
we were going to keep it at 602.
So
but
the question is, do we want to do 1% or do we want to be able to say less than 1%? You know, it's really semantics.
Oh, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
and the second, did
Aye,
Trish is going to second it. Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
Adopt an increase
I'll wait for
in the
Lauren.
tax levy. Okay, thank you.
Shall we go on to the New York State Annual Library Report of 51 pages? Which I did not download.
No.
Thank you.
But went through it, read it.
Yes. Yeah, this is probably officially my least favorite part of my job. It's a huge pain. Marie caught that I had put Megan's last Megan's contact information from last year in there, forgetting that she had both changed her email address and moved. So thank you on that. Did anyone else see anything that looks suspicious? I mean, I'm sure I had Carol look at it too, just because it's so much like yes, no, like it's easy to like mark something just inadvertently. So if anyone saw anything, you know, let me know. Upper Hudson will also review it just to make sure that they don't catch anything I got wrong. But you guys do need to, I think, accept it, I guess.
Right.
I read it.
Thank you.
I make a motion to accept
New York State Annual
New York
Library,
State Annual
In the report.
Library.
Library Report.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Good, great. And we'll go on to trustee outreach. Our trust, do we have anyone in mind? Anyone who's willing to run?
I had a couple of names, but I don't know. Trisha Grogan, she's a teacher at Becker. No, sorry, Peter B.
I know, Tricia.
She lives in Selkirk.
Mhm.
Kind of an active community person. And Audrey June.
Did you speak to both of them, Trish?
No, they were just names tonight. I have not. No,
Oh.
they were just kind of names as,
I did speak to one former board member, but he is mulling it over. You can probably guess.
Mhm.
Yay.
So I haven't actually spoken to anyone, but you know, when I chatted with Marie about this, I mentioned Lucia Nieves.
I think she'd be good.
Oh,
Should be wonderful.
So she was
Dynamo.
planning board. I don't know about her willingness to take on more, but I'd be happy to ask her. And then Meredith, how well do you know Ted Smith or anybody else?
I feel like I know Ted better than I actually do because we've emailed back and forth and he's very present on social media. I know his wife fairly well, but I've only ever met him in person one time. I saw him say recently that he was a little bit hesitant to take on anything else. Somebody asked him if he would share something for them, and he said, "I'm kind of busy already." But I think he would be a good choice.
For those who don't know, I'm sorry, I should have said to him, Ted is a middle school English teacher. And he's, as far as I can tell, kind of he moved down, he actually used to live in my neighborhood. And he moved into RCS 3 or 4 years ago, I think, with his family, closer to work. And he's, just clearly pretty engaged in the community. I don't know him well enough to have a sense of what his other commitments are.
Right. Yeah, it seems like everybody is like more and more people are turning to him because he is getting kind of a following in the community, which makes it's probably great and terrible for him, right?
So we need to find 2 people who are willing to run. The good news is actually today, I think the governor signed the number of petitions, signatures is reduced to 25. So that helps, especially considering there is a pandemic going on. So whoever it is would have to increase 20, we have to get 25 signatures. I will just put out a general call on our social media to see who answers. I know Trisha and Audrey. I think my sense is Audrey might be a better fit. I don't know who else knows either of them or both of them.
I don't know either of them.
Audrey,
I've worked with Audrey
Greenbush, who lives in the community. She's a regular library user. And Trisha has a daughter who I think is probably 11 or 12, like probably.
3 daughters, yeah, one graduates this year.
Yeah, I probably know her youngest.
Yeah, Alyssa.
Alyssa Grogan. They did writers boot camp, I think 2 summers ago. She brings the kids to the library. They're both really nice families. So I don't know if you want to ask them both, or the worst case scenario is we have more people than spots, and then then it's competitive, and which is it's probably the way it should be.
I mean, I can reach out to them. Unless you want to.
No. I say if you have a relationship with them, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
You can certainly say, reach out to me with any questions about, logistics or what it entails, and because it's coming up quicker than we realize.
Right, it is.
Right.
Judith, did you want me to touch base with Ted? Even if he's not up for it, he knows a lot of people now. He might have a good idea of someone that might be interested. I can do that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Any other comments about outreach? No, okay. Construction grants update?
So our digital sign should be going in within the month. So that was great. I have the design concept. I just need to sign off on it. I sent it back, the proof, I guess. So that is coming along nicely. That's really it. The only thing I could think of in terms of an application for this year would actually be a battery for our solar panels, which would give us a reserve. It wouldn't be a generator, but if the power went out, it would give us a power reserve, which would be a good thing. We don't lose power a lot. We're fortunate. So I haven't pursued it enough to have a sense of what the cost is, or, is our setup even conducive to that? But that was the only thing I had on my list. So I don't know if anyone else has thought of something that they'd like to see, but.
Well, I can only speak a little bit to the battery idea, because we've tried to get a battery for our system here, and it seems like we're just a little ahead of the technology curve and wanting the battery. They don't seem to be quite ready to to be purchased yet.
That's interesting.
Don't think it'll be long, but we weren't able to at any rate.
Okay, and was that, how recently did you try?
About a month ago.
Oh, very recently. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. because
I was thinking you guys said, oh, 2 years ago. Or...
we'd love
Okay, well,
that.
that's good to know. No, I can certainly just reach out to Castleman, who did the installation on the system, and say, you know, can we do this?
Yeah.
Who did your system, Lori?
Empower, I think it was called Empower. I'm not even sure if they're in business anymore. They're out of Johnstown.
Yeah, these companies do come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we asked somebody else about, I can ask my husband who he was inquiring about, who he was asking. I don't know who it was. But I'll email you if I find out.
That would be great.
You know how you, maybe, I don't know if this is the right time or not, but you know how you were saying to maybe we could think of some ideas to stockpile for construction grants? One thing I had thought of was, you know, we had nixed the idea of a wall or a plexiglass partition around the kids' zone. And that might be something that could go on in the ideas box.
Yeah, we had to I think one of the issues was how do you install that on a concrete floor? And I'm sure it's doable. We just have to find the right contractor.
I mean, it could even be plexiglass panels that are, you know, being installed everywhere, and not even, wouldn't even have to be contiguous.
Yeah.
Several panels. But anyways, that drifted through my mind.
It would make managing the space a lot easier. Right? You know, always trying to balance kids love the library, have fun, but you know, Mr. So-and-so wants to read the newspaper in peace. So that's always been that competing tension, we'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could certainly. I'd have to talk to Tim. Would that be construction? Because you know it's New York State, so there's all these rules that things have to fit into. But he's very good about being yeah, well, you build a built-in wooden cabinet below it. It'll be construction, you know. So yeah, and another, something else that is kind of on our wish list. So with the flood, we deconstructed and reconstructed our metal shelves. I don't know when the library got those shelves. I'm pretty sure they were not new when we got them. And every time we take them apart and put them back together, we have to kind of bang on them a little bit more to get them to fit. And they're still functional, but in terms of the long-term wish list, even if it's just replacing a couple of them
At a time, that's what, yeah.
that would not be a construction project because you can't just buy fixtures and call it construction.
Yeah.
But if to go full circle, if you could build wooden shelves and then put the plexiglass partition on top of it, that would be a construction project. So.
I think we have come to the end of our agenda, our new business. Am I correct, Judith?
You are. The one thing that I probably should have asked you to put on the agenda is just approving the ledger of checks. It should be at the back of your packet.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So we'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report. This actually would, I know we keep calling it something.
Yeah, so the QuickBooks calls it a custom transaction detail report. I just call it the check ledger. It's of course just the report of the checks that we are sending out each month.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the check ledger. Is that what you're calling it?
Yes.
I second it.
Great. Okay, how many are in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Again, we did put down on the agenda that the budget vote is May 18th, and that'll come so quickly. Okay, so I think we are settled. So we need to have a motion for an adjournment, if that's all right with everyone, if everyone is ready to adjourn. Um,
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, second?
I
I'll
second
second.
it.
Oh, can I say,
Whatever.
I don't never second anything.
No, that's go ahead. Go, then you, I've been talking a lot or whatever. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, man.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Okay. Have a wonderful month. Stay safe,
Yes.
You
stay
too.
healthy.
Good
Yes.
night.
Everybody,
Night,
Good night.
night.
night now.
See you.
Whenever's good for you, Meredith. Or just
Okay,
doesn't matter.
what time do you get in there?
I should be there probably by 9:30.
Okay, I drop Helen and Ann off at school at 8:45, so I'll just come down right around then, so I can probably be there about 9 o'clock.
Okay, fabulous. I'll see you at 9.
Okay,
Okay.
see you in the morning. Good night, Marie.
Good night. Good to see you, Meredith.
You too.
Take care.
Ah. That was
Oh,
good.
wait.
It was a good process.
Yes, I think we went through it. Yeah, I think so too. I think everybody was very, reasonable, thoughtful.
I agree. So
So
we
that's,
just need to find 2 more people.
no, so nobody's else. I talked to Joe. You know who it was.
Well, I was like, it could have been either, but yes, I thought it was probably Joe.
Yeah, because I saw him today for just a minute, and I said to him, when I went in, I said, now, consider it. I finally told him that 2 people wouldn't be, because I waited until that last meeting, so knew we were gonna have a meeting tonight. So I said, consider it. I said, mull it over. I
There
mean,
you
just think about it. I said, we need someone fairly strong, and who's really interested and is involved in the community. That would be great. I know Antonio, I didn't approach Antonio because thinking that I don't know, he's so busy.
Well, he might have a recommendation too. I think it could be.
I will call him.
Yeah.
That I will do.
We'd love to have you, but if you're not available, you can suggest anybody.
Let's ask Antonio. I'll give him a call. I haven't spoken to him in a while, so. Yeah, and do you know what's wrong with Russ?
I don't know. I have no idea.
No, I know.
No.
Because he's missed a lot of meetings.
He has, yeah. I mean, he forgot one. He had his heart condition. He was out of state. And then this one, I don't know what this one was. So
I don't know. He just said he couldn't make it, and I just thanked him for the
heads up.
heads up.
Yep.
I hope Megan is all right. She said I hadn't looked at that because I was doing some other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's right. I'm sure we will get some people.
Yes. Ooh, excuse me.
I know you're tired.
I am tired. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Soraya looks absolutely wonderful, and she is getting so tall. Right? I mean,
Oh my gosh, she's 10 now. So
yeah, when was she 10? I've forgotten.
in December.
In December, she was
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, winter baby.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
We find out, I think, in about 2 weeks if she gets her spot back at Ash.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Fingers crossed on that. I actually got an email. today
Yes. Good.
The current PTA president saying, would you consider being president next year? I'm like, I don't even know if my kid's going to be there. Like, no.
Okay. All right.
So, I'm still
Okay.
recording. Stop the recording here.